December 1st, Monday, December 1st, where the moon will be in the sign of Aries. It's going to move into Taurus late in the evening, 10:13 p.m. And we have a lot of fire. We're heading to a full moon. It's going to be a full Gemini moon on Thursday. So we know things are intense. Now, Mars is squaring, making an abrasive action. Mars is at 22 degrees Sag around the beginning of the month. And it's squaring the mutable signs in planets in the mutable sign of Pisces, which are Saturn and Neptune. So there's going to be, Mars wants to push ahead, and Neptune, rules all the fog, and it rules drugs and alcohol, and it rules creativity. So you could be taking some action and creativity, but Saturn's there, and Saturn is the authoritarian. So there's an intensity, and you may find that you're trying to push ahead, but maybe you can't. And there's also a lot of water. There's a lot of planets in water signs. Jupiter's in Cancer. Mercury's still hanging out in the sign of Scorpio, the deep water sign. And then these two planets in Pisces. So we have this grand water trine going on. It's going to make things emotional, but there's a lot of creative healing energy. So be aware of this full moon. Be cautious of this full moon. And so let's see. Monday the 1st, good time to take action, but without pushing, seeing where it flows with ease. On Tuesday the 2nd, we have the moon in the beautiful sign of Taurus, the Venus-ruled sign, so enjoy the harmony. Then on the 3rd, the moon heads into the sign of Gemini in the evening, 9:48 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and it's going to be conjunct Uranus, that is pretty close to Gemini. It's in the late degrees of Taurus. So the moon's going to be conjunct the oh wow planet, which is retrograding. And it's going to be opposite Mercury in the watery sign of Scorpio, in the late degrees of Scorpio. So there's a lot of psychic energy. There may be some feelings that come up. There may be some information that you feel. Write it down. Observe it and see if there's truth to it as we move into the full Gemini moon on Thursday, December 4th. This is a 13-degree Gemini full moon at 6:14 p.m. And it's right there together. One side of it's got Venus and Sagittarius hanging out. So Venus close to the sun is always a lovely thing. And then on the other side is Mars, the planet of action. It's kind of interesting because Mars is written as the symbol for men, Venus is women, and the sun is sitting right there in between the two of them. Now, across from it is the moon in Gemini. So there's going to be a lot of things. Gemini is about communication and speaking your truth. Mercury, the ruler of Gemini, is just coming out of retrograde, so it's been reviewing a lot of things. So we still want to be a little bit careful with our words because Mercury, it's deep, and it's in that water sign of Scorpio still, and sometimes the words, I have Mercury in Scorpio, and I have to be careful. Sometimes my words can really hurt. And so we have to be aware of what we're speaking, but we definitely want to speak from value because Venus is involved, okay, and harmony. Now, the sun's in Sag, right? The moon's in Gemini, and Sagittarius ruler Jupiter's in retrograde. So there's a lot of retrograde affecting this full moon, and there's squares with Saturn and, and Neptune. And so it's a little, we just have to go easy, especially with Uranus involved, and Uranus can throw in unexpected things. So I would kind of lay low, take it easy. There's a lot of water energy. Get some rest, do some writing, and avoid drama. Okay. Now we move into Friday, and the moon will be opposite Mars as it gets into the later degrees of Gemini. And so the moon is your soft feminine power, intuition, nurturing energy. Opposite, the pedal to the metal, planet Mars, which is hanging out in the fire sign of Sagittarius. So there may be a little bit of a push and a pull. The moon enters Cancer at 8:54 p.m. So, Cancer's rules the home and nurturing. So it's either a great night to stay in and have a great home night, or maybe you go out and just have a beautiful meal. Now, because Gemini is a social sign, right? So there's some social energy there too. Now on the 6th, the moon continues in Cancer. We pretty much have a Cancer weekend. So Cancer, again, ruled by the moon. In astrology, it's the 4th house, the house of nurturing. I think of it as the house of the kitchen, and just like food energy, nurturing energy, comfortable energy, and kind of like mom energy, okay? But great for house parties, great for great meals, and just some soft, comfy energy. On the 7th, the moon will move on Sunday the 7th into Leo later at night, 9:48 p.m. Super emotional with all these planets in water, the moon in its own sign of Cancer. The moon is going to be conjunct Jupiter in Cancer. Jupiter makes everything bigger. So it's either going to be a beautiful, wonderful time, or it's going to be an emotional mess. Okay. So see where you're at and nurture yourself accordingly. And don't get too hard on yourself. It's an intense week. Okay. Now let's pull a couple cards for this week ahead. And got a couple different decks here. The Star Tarot, which is a nice Christmas time one. Let's get one there. And I also have the Yuletide Tarot, which I love. Now, the online store is finally launched. I've been talking about it for what feels like forever. It's finally launched. And so I'm going to be starting to put some of these decks on there. I know the Star Tarot is on there already. I'm waiting for the Yuletide to come in. It should be here any day. So you'll see the Yuletide going up on the website too. I have a Season of the Witch Oracle, which is on the website also. And let's see what your cards are for this full moon week. And the first card is the Two of Wands. It's a pretty cool version of the Two of Wands with like this beams of light coming out of the zodiac wheel. So 2 of Fire, 2 relationship number, Wands, passion, drive. And I hope that you were able to find some relief in the opening comments of this video about how hope is in sight. The Queen of Candles is here, and she is the Queen of Wands, and she is sitting by that fireplace and she's enjoying things. I think, doesn't she have a hot water bottle on her? I think she might be holding a hot water bottle. And that pretty much sums up how I feel about the weekend. She's just kind of like cozy and enjoying and resting. And that's such a Cancer-like thing, hot water bottle. So make sure that you take care of yourself and make sure you enjoy some quiet time. Enjoy the dimly lit lights of Christmas time. I think that's some of my favorite parts, is just all the twinkling lights, and take some quiet time and just enjoy that. Especially if you're the person that's hosting or having a ton of people over, make sure you're getting enough of that downtime. Now, you've got the ceremony card, and it says, I call upon those heralds of winter, dimming light for better sight. Hear thy praise spilling from thy lips, a spell I'll cast for thy spirits in me. So, a ceremony, which is what we were talking about. I'm going to flip this card over because it's got a little nudity in it. And YouTube doesn't like that. Okay, so it's a ceremony card, and I almost feel like this is a ceremony here with just some self-care next to a relationship number 2. And, sometimes the relationship with ourselves is the first one to be overlooked. So taking time for that, having your own ceremonies, your own quiet, lovely times before any big celebrations this month, and remembering the watery energy of the week. And so sometimes the ceremony is just a hot water bottle on your belly in front of a fireplace and enjoying the dimly lit joy of Christmas lights.